Thank you guys all. I'm always right before lunch, so I'll keep it not too long. I know we had a good day of input. And I'm just going to be going over the toolkits that we've produced in the past year. This is the first version of them, and also a little bit about the library and other resources that we've produced in Transition2Bio. Just quickly, my name is Lily Teitelbaum, and I'm an EU project manager at the BIOCOM AG and part of the Transition2Bio consortium. So just quickly, I just wanted to highlight the library. So the goal of this project, of the Transition2Bio project, is to bring together all the most relevant communication and education material on the bioeconomy from EU projects. So central to that is kind of amassing all these materials into one library. So there's 1,000 resources on there. Definitely a worthy place to look for material. And there's a bunch of different search functions where you can find lots of different things. So more detailed reports, case studies, deliverables is a good place to look there. They divided the material by, I think, communication, education, and support. But there's also other categories that you can search for by education, by biomass, by stakeholder engagement, by language. So there's a lot to look for there. But it can be a bit overwhelming. So one thing we've done and set out to do in this project is to bring all those resources together in a toolkit, in a kind of package of knowledge that is more easier or actionable for people. So that is the aim of our toolkits that we created. We created 3 of them, which are on the website. And as most people here are aware, the transition to the bioeconomy requires kind of a transformation from all different perspectives and across all different sectors. So we've tried to approach that by looking by creating toolkits from these different perspectives. And namely, they're on the demand side, the supply side, and the multiplier or support side. I'll go into that a little bit more in detail a bit later. But really what they are kind of an action-oriented composition of a compilation of information. So of tools, of catalogs, of videos, of presentations, of platforms, everything that we could find out there in the online that's already been created. There's a lot of great stuff out there, and it's just sometimes a matter of putting it together for people. And so what I did, I took the library of resources that we had, and I tried to go through them and narrow them down to fit a target group as best as one could. A lot of the resources are for a large range of people, but to try to target them as best as we could, and to also to filter them for actionable, kind of universal, the best quality resources that are out there, and also to try to get a good coverage of all the bioeconomy sectors, because I think this is also a challenge. I'm sure that people understand this, that are working on communicating on the bioeconomy, is to try to cover all the different angles is sometimes a valiant thing to achieve, but we've tried to do that. So we narrowed down all these library resources into 120 tools, and then we divided them into these 3 main toolkits. So you can find the toolkits on our website. The link is there. And so they're specifically targeted at this point to the first one is to the demand side. The second is to the supply side. And the third is to the multiplier or the supportive environment around the bioeconomy. And just so you're aware, this is the first version. So these are currently in a form of a PDF. with lots of links to these different tools. But we're actually working on a second version to maybe make it easier for people to engage in the form of a interactive web page that might make it easier for people to access these different resources. But currently, yes, the link has just been posted into the chat if you want to check them out while I'm talking. But here's just the cover page of the 3 toolkits that we have so far. And sometimes I think it can be a bit confusing what we intend by, or what we mean by demand side. It can be defined in different ways. So what we've done is, for the first toolkit, which focuses on the demand side, what we mean by demand, who is that, is just really the general public, citizens and consumers. And what have we put in this toolkit? It's tools or videos or activities that are really user friendly, that are engaging, that are bright, that are visual, and that really focus on kind of daily application of the bioeconomy. And the real message that we're trying to transmit is, what is the bioeconomy, with a focus more on consumption and lifestyle. And in the second toolkit, we're focusing on the supply side. So that's everyone from the primary producers to SMEs. We've also included large enterprises, but this is, again, a very vast area. And we focus kind of predominantly on primary producers, because what the content of this toolkit has is mostly kind of best practices, more robust information, also collaborative platforms. And the message of the second toolkit is really, what are the economic opportunities of the bioeconomy? So we're looking at job creation, income diversification, regional business models. What are ways to valorize residues? These are some of the things we've collected in this toolkit. And in the third toolkit, it's focused on the multipliers or supportive environment. A lot of us here today. So that's, NGOs and CSOs, but also scientists and researchers, teachers, young students, and then another section on policymakers. And one interesting initiative that started in Italy is working on a pilot toolkit, kind of a sub toolkit for the teachers. Because right now the teacher section is a part of this supportive environment. But what we've realized in working throughout this year is a specific toolkit for teachers might be helpful. Again, it's always the issue of language. Often with teachers, it needs to be in the local language. So then how do we get all the resources that we can and explain them in the local language? So that's kind of being piloted right now. And again, what are these contents in the last toolkit? They're mostly focused on kind of skills and methodologies of communicating the bioeconomy, because the central message transmitted in the third toolkit is really, how can we communicate the bioeconomy? So everything from guidelines on communication to outreach and engagement methods, to like specific PowerPoint presentations for teachers on the bioeconomy, to resources for policymakers on how to create a bioeconomy strategy. So there's a lot of good stuff there. And in this module today, what I am kind of experimenting with is trying to, so technically, I mean, you could use the third toolkit as it is, because today's session is focusing on, how to raise awareness and communicate the bioeconomy. So that really is the question that the third toolkit tries to do. But all the resources throughout these 3 toolkits can also be used in different way. And what I've tried to do is have a sort of bird's eye approach today, that looks at, how would a regional stakeholder look at these toolkits and use these toolkits if they wanted to, for instance, assess the level of bioeconomy development in their region and create a proper strategy for bioeconomy communication. So this is kind of an experiment that I thought I would try to see how somebody might look at the 3 toolkits and use them. And it could be used at any kind of level of regional development. And so let me just walk you through what that would look like. It's based on the model that was the methodology that was presented previously, and it's on this bio-what, bio-how, and bio-act categorization. And what I've done is I've picked out a few of tools and connected them to these 3 categories. So in the first area, a method of bio-what, in which you want to try to inspire and assess, I've gone into the toolkits and found a few resources that I think could be helpful. So for instance, if you're at an early development stage in your bioeconomy and you're looking for ways for inspiration and also assessment, for inspiration, you would find a lot of these things in the toolkit, in the first toolkit, because this again is really for the general public. It's trying to make it tangible and invite users with videos and visuals. And so one good example is the Bio Art Gallery from Bio Voices. And this has really nice images of feedstocks and their applications that I think are very tangible for people and easy for people to be inspired by. And then in terms of assessing, kind of a really good example from the toolkits is from the second toolkit, which looks at the public perception of bio-based products and these different bio-based product market segments. Another good way of using the toolkit to assess. In the second stage of, for instance, informing and educating, maybe you're at a more advanced stage of bioeconomy development in your region, and you're looking for some tools to kind of educate a bit more, inform a bit more. In the toolkit, in the second toolkit, you'll find a very detailed catalog of bioeconomy solutions and business models from, for instance, Power for Bio. It's a great catalog to search with a lot of filters. It's very helpful. Also, you'll find in the same toolkit the B-roll handbook on business model cases to look, if you really want to understand, okay, what are the biomass options in the regional areas, and what are the different business models that are available in a regional bioeconomy setting. And then lastly, another good resource is in the third toolkit. It's a LIFT fact sheet. Susanna mentioned this already, but it gets into how to facilitate and simplify your communication on the bioeconomy, and goes into storytelling and exhibitions. And again, it's a very helpful resource for this second level of engagement. And the last one is BioAct. Where would you find resources to engage and co-create? And I've picked out a few here. All of these can be found in the third toolkit because this is, again, really focused on communication and engagement. But the first one that I've listed here is a guidebook from Bloom, the Bloom project, which really goes into outreach and engagement activities at various levels and is very detailed and helpful. Another tool is a LIFT fact sheet specifically on stakeholder engagement and co-creation methods. And then lastly, there is a toolkit within a toolkit, which is from Power for Bio, and it's the Bioeconomy Strategy Accelerator Toolkit, which is an online platform to guide decision makers and stakeholders on how to actually develop their own bioeconomy strategy. So this is an even more advanced technique for co-creation or actually creating a strategy. So again, there's so many different resources that we've collected throughout all three of these toolkits, and they can be used in different ways. So I highly recommend checking them out for yourself and seeing what's available. We are in the process of learning and adapting to what works for people and what's helpful for people. So we have a survey. So if you want to provide some feedback for us for a second version, for the more interactive web page version, we would love to hear from you. There's a survey that you can fill out on the website. You'll see it right when you click on the toolkits themselves. And this would be helpful for us because maybe there's a resource or a tool that we've forgotten, or maybe you think there's a different way that we can share this information with people. So that is my quick overview of the toolkits. I welcome any feedback and also questions or comments or concern. Thank you.